Okay, tonight is 29th of July, and we come to Majjhima Nikaya Sutta 26, Ariyapariyesana Sutta. Is it loud enough? Is it loud enough? Thus have I heard. This Ariyapariyesana, the translation is the noble search. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Then when it was morning, the Blessed One dressed and taking his bowl and outer robe, went into Savatthi for alms. Then a number of monks went to the Venerable Ananda and said to him, "Friend Ananda, it is long since we had a talk on the Dhamma from the Blessed One's own lips. It would be good if we could get to hear such a talk, friend Ananda. Then let the Venerable Ones go to the Brahmin Ramaka's hermitage. Perhaps you will get to hear a talk on the Dhamma from the Blessed One's own lips." "Yes, friend," they replied. We'll stop here for a moment. So this part it shows that the Buddha did not speak Dhamma very often. Maybe in the early years of his ministry, he spoke more Dhamma. Maybe towards the later years, he spoke less Dhamma because a lot of the Dhamma had already been spoken or taught by the Buddha. So actually we are very lucky because we can get to know more suttas from the books available now than many monks during the Buddha's time. Many monks during the Buddha's time, sometimes they only get to hear the sutta when they meet the Buddha or meet a monk who is willing to teach. But here we have all about 5,000 suttas in the books, all available to us. So a Buddhist would be very silly if you did not get the Nikaya books to investigate. Then when the Blessed One had wandered for alms in Savatthi and had returned from his alms round, after his meal he addressed the Venerable Ananda. "Ananda, let us go to the eastern park, to the palace of Nigara's mother, for the day is abiding." "Yes, Venerable Sir," the Venerable Ananda replied. Then the Blessed One went with the Venerable Ananda to the eastern park, the palace of Nigara's mother, for the day is abiding. Then when it was evening, the Blessed One rose from meditation and addressed the Venerable Ananda. "Ananda, let us go to the eastern bathing place to bathe." "Yes, Venerable Sir," the Venerable Ananda replied. Then the Blessed One went with the Venerable Ananda to the eastern bathing place to bathe. When he was finished, he came up out of the water and stood in one robe, drying his limbs. Then the Venerable Ananda said to the Blessed One, "Venerable Sir, the Brahmin Ramaka's hermitage is nearby. That hermitage is agreeable and delightful. Venerable Sir, it would be good if the Blessed One went there out of compassion." The Blessed One consented in silence. And stop here for a moment. Here you see that the Venerable Ananda, he knows probably that the Buddha was going to bathe in the eastern bathing place. That's why, and the eastern bathing place is not far from the Ramaka's hermitage. Probably that was why he asked the monks to wait there. The Buddha will probably go there at night. Also, you see this Migara's mother is the name for Visakha, the lady supporter of the Buddha. She is called Migara's mother because the father-in-law's name is Migara, and because this Visakha, she brought the father-in-law into Buddhism, and the father-in-law was extremely grateful to her, so the father-in-law used to call her mother. So that's why she is known as, Visakha is known as Migara's mother. So this palace of Migara's mother, or the eastern park, is a monastery probably that Visakha donated to the Buddha. Then you see in the Vinaya books we find that when the monks during the Buddha's time, when they took a bath in the river, they would wear only the underrobe, what we call the sarong. And then they go into the river as the water went higher. Then they'll take off their sarong and throw it on the shore or throw it on the bush. And then they would bathe. And after bathing, they come out naked. And then they go and retrieve their robe and put it on. So the Buddha had come out of the water and he was drying his limbs. So the member Ananda asked the Buddha to go to Ramaka's hermitage, and the Buddha agreed. Then the Blessed One went to the Brahmin Ramaka's hermitage. Now on that occasion, a number of monks were sitting together in the hermitage discussing the Dhamma. The Blessed One stood outside the door waiting for their discussion to end. When he knew that it was over, he coughed and knocked, and the monks opened the door for him. The Blessed One entered, sat down on a seat made ready, and addressed the monks thus: "Monks, for what discussion are you sitting together here now? And what was your discussion that was interrupted?" "Venerable Sir, our discussion on the Dhamma that was interrupted was about the Blessed One himself." Then the Blessed One arrived. "Good monks, it is fitting for you clansmen who have gone forth out of faith from the home life into homelessness to sit together to discuss the Dhamma. When you gather together, monks, you should do either one of two things. You should do either of two things. Hold discussion on the Dhamma or maintain noble silence." Let's stop here for a moment. So you see, the Buddha was very courteous. He knew that the monks were discussing Dhamma, and then he, instead of knocking on the door, he just waited for the talk to end. Then when he knew that they had finished discussion, he coughed and knocked the door, and they opened the door for him. So the Buddha said, when monks come together, they should either keep noble silence, not talk, or if they do talk, then to discuss the Dhamma. So now you all training, so you all don't talk too much and don't talk too loud. Monks, there are these two kinds of search, the noble search and the ignoble search. And what is the ignoble search? Here someone being himself subject to birth seeks what is also subject to birth. Being himself subject to aging, he seeks what is also subject to aging. Being himself subject to sickness, he seeks what is also subject to sickness. Being himself subject to death, he seeks what is also subject to death. Being himself subject to sorrow, he seeks what is also subject to sorrow. Being himself subject to defilement, he seeks what is also subject to defilement. And what may be said to be subject to birth? Wife and children are subject to birth. Men and women slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares, gold and silver are subject to birth. Gold and silver means money, are subject to birth. These objects of attachment are subject to birth, and one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them, and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to birth, seeks what is also subject to birth. And what may be said to be subject to aging? Wife and children are subject to aging. Men and women slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares, gold and silver are subject to aging. These objects of attachment are subject to aging. And one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them, and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to aging, seeks what is also subject to aging. And what may be said to be subject to sickness? Wife and children are subject to sickness. Men and women slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares are subject to sickness. These objects of attachment are subject to sickness. And one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them, and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to sickness, seeks what is also subject to sickness. And what may be said to be subject to death? Wife and children are subject to death. Men and women slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares are subject to death. These objects of attachment are subject to death. And one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them, and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to death, seeks what is also subject to death, and what may be said to be subject to sorrow. Wife and children are subject to sorrow. Men and women slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares are subject to sorrow. These objects of attachment are subject to sorrow, and one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to sorrow, seeks what is also subject to sorrow, and what may be said to be subject to defilement. Wife and children are subject to defilement, men and women slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares, gold and silver are subject to defilement. These objects of attachment are subject to defilement, and one who is tied to these things, infatuated with them and utterly committed to them, being himself subject to defilement, seeks what is also subject to defilement. This is the ignoble search. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying that a person who seeks after worldly things, the normal things that a lay person looks for, wife and children, property, money, and all this are all subject to birth, aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement. And what is a noble search? Here someone, being himself subject to birth, having understood the danger in what is subject to birth, seeks the unborn supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being himself subject to aging, having understood the danger in what is subject to aging, he seeks the unaging supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being himself subject to sickness, having understood the danger in what is subject to sickness, he seeks the unailing supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being himself subject to death, having understood the danger in what is subject to death, he seeks the deathless supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being himself subject to sorrow, having understood the danger in what is subject to sorrow, he seeks the sorrowless supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Being himself subject to defilement, having understood the danger in what is subject to defilement, he seeks the undefiled supreme security from bondage, nibbana. This is the noble search. So here the Buddha says the noble Aryan search is the search for nibbana. If a person understands the Dhamma, that all worldly things are subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, defilement, and then he will let go of these things and look for a way out of all these worldly things and look for the supreme security from bondage, which is nibbana. Monks, before my enlightenment, while I was still only an unenlightened bodhisattva, I too, being subject to birth, sought what was also subject to birth. Being myself subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, I sought what was also subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement. Then I considered thus, why, being myself subject to birth, do I seek what is also subject to birth? Why, being myself subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, do I seek what is also subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement? Suppose that, being myself subject to birth, having understood the danger in what is subject to birth, I seek the unborn supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Suppose that, being myself subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, having understood the danger in what is subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, I seek the unaging, unailing, deathless, sorrowless, and undefiled supreme security from bondage. Later, while still young, a black-haired young man, endowed with the blessing of youth, in the prime of life, though my mother and father wished otherwise, and wept with tearful faces, I shaved off my hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and went forth from the home life into homelessness. Stop here for a moment. So here you see, in the suttas, the Buddha's in the sutta here, the Buddha says very clearly, in front of his parents, even though his parents were weeping and trying to restrain him from going forth, in front of them, he shaved off his hair and beard and put on the yellow robe and left the home. later books, they try to put it in a more romantic sort of way. I said that the Buddha, in the middle of the night, took a last look at his son and the wife and went off on his horse. But he didn't go off on his horse, like he walked away. Having gone forth, monks, in search of what is wholesome, seeking the supreme state of sublime peace, I went to Alara Kalama and said to him, "Friend Kalama, I want to lead the holy life in this Dhammavinaya." Dhammavinaya is the teaching. Alara Kalama replied, "The Venerable One may stay here. This Dhamma is such that a wise man can soon enter upon and abide in it, realizing for himself through direct knowledge his own teacher's doctrine. I soon quickly learned that Dhamma. As far as mere lip reciting and rehearsal of his teaching went, I could speak with knowledge and assurance, and I claimed, I know and see, and there were others who did likewise. I considered, it is not through mere faith alone that Alara Kalama declares, by realizing for myself with direct knowledge, I enter upon and abide in this Dhamma. Certainly, Alara Kalama abides knowing and seeing this Dhamma. Then I went to Alara Kalama and asked him, Friend Kalama, in what way do you declare that by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge, you enter upon and abide in this Dhamma? In reply, he declared the base of nothingness. Let's stop here for a moment. So here, soon after the Buddha went forth, he went to look for meditation teachers. So this first meditation teacher he looked for was Alara Kalama. And this Alara Kalama is a person who had attained the Arupa Jhana, the base of nothingness, which is actually a very high state of meditation. I considered not only Alara Kalama has faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. I too have faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. Suppose I endeavor to realize the Dhamma that Alara Kalama declares he enters upon and abides in by realizing for himself with direct knowledge. I soon quickly entered upon and abided in that Dhamma by realizing for myself with direct knowledge. Then I went to Alara Kalama and asked him, Friend Kalama, is it in this way that you declare that you enter upon and abide in this Dhamma by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge? That is the way, friend. It is in this way, friend, that I also enter upon and abide in this Dhamma by realizing for myself with direct knowledge. And Alara said, it is a gain for us, friend. It is a great gain for us that we have such a venerable one for our companion in the holy life. So the Dhamma that I declare I enter upon and abide in by realizing for myself with direct knowledge is the Dhamma that you enter upon and abide in by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge. And the Dhamma that you enter upon and abide in by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge is the Dhamma that I declare I enter upon and abide in by realizing for myself with direct knowledge. So you know the Dhamma that I know, and I know the Dhamma that you know. As I am, so are you. As you are, so am I. Come, friend, let us lead this community together. Thus Alara Kalama, my teacher, placed me, his pupil, on an equal footing with himself and awarded me the highest honor. But it occurred to me, this Dhamma does not lead to disenchantment, to dispassion, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana, but only to reappearance in the base of nothingness. Not being satisfied with that Dhamma, I left it and went away. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha, he managed to attain this high meditation state, which his teacher had achieved, this base of nothingness, Rupa Jhana. But because the teacher was not enlightened, the teacher did not have the Buddha Dhamma, did not have the Dhamma that was necessary to attain liberation. So he only had this meditative experience only. So the Buddha, the Bodhisattva, realized that he was not going to get enlightened under this teacher. So he left the teacher. Still in search, monks, of what is wholesome, seeking the supreme state of sublime peace, I went to Udaka Ramaputta and said to him, Friend, I want to lead the holy life in this Dhamma Vinaya. Uddaka Ramaputta replied, the Venerable One may stay here. This Dhamma is such that a wise man can soon enter upon and abide in it, himself realizing through direct knowledge his own teacher's doctrine. I soon quickly learned that Dhamma. As far as mere lip reciting and rehearsal of his teaching went, I could speak with knowledge and assurance, and I claimed I know and see. But there were others who did likewise. I considered it is not through mere faith alone that Rama declared, by realizing for myself with direct knowledge, I enter and abide in this Dhamma. Certainly Rama abided knowing and seeing this Dhamma. Then I went to Uddaka Ramaputta and asked him, friend, in what way did Rama declare that by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, he entered upon and abided in this Dhamma? In reply, Uddaka Ramaputta declared the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Stop here for a moment. So this second meditation teacher he went to was also a very good meditator who could attain the base of neither perception nor non-perception, which is the highest arupa jhana, very near to the state of cessation of perception and feeling already. So this was the second teacher. I considered not only Rama had faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. I too have faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. Suppose I endeavor to realize that Dhamma that Rama declared he entered upon and abided in by realizing for himself with direct knowledge. Let's stop here for a moment. These 5 things are called the 5 faculties, faith, energy, mindfulness and concentration and wisdom. I soon quickly entered upon and abided in that Dhamma by realizing for myself with direct knowledge. Then I went to Uddaka Ramaputta and asked him, friend, was it in this way that Rama declared that he entered upon and abided in this Dhamma by realizing for himself with direct knowledge? That is the way, friend. It is in this way, friend, that I also enter upon and abide in this Dhamma by realizing for myself with direct knowledge. And Rama said, it is a gain for us, friend. It is a great gain for us that we have such a Venerable One for our companion in the holy life. So the Dhamma that Rama declared he entered upon and abided in by realizing for himself with direct knowledge is the Dhamma that you enter upon and abide in by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge. And the Dhamma that you enter upon and abide in by realizing for yourself with direct knowledge is the Dhamma that Rama declared he entered upon and abided in by realizing for himself with direct knowledge. So you know the Dhamma that Rama knew, and Rama knew the Dhamma that you know. As Rama was, so are you. As you are, so was Rama. Come, friend, let now lead this community. Thus Uddaka Ramaputta, my companion in the holy life, placed me in the position of a teacher and accorded me the highest honor. But it occurred to me, this Dhamma does not lead to disenchantment, to dispassion, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana, but only to reappearance in the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Not being satisfied with that Dhamma, I left it and went away. I'll stop here for a moment. So in the same way, the Buddha left this Rama, Uddaka Ramaputta, because his teaching did not lead to liberation or enlightenment. Still in search, monks, of what is wholesome, seeking the supreme state of sublime peace, I wandered by stages through the Magadhan country until eventually I arrived at Senani Gama near Uruvela. There I saw an agreeable piece of ground, a delightful grove with a clear flowing river with pleasant smooth banks and nearby a village for alms resort. I considered, this is an agreeable piece of ground. This is a delightful grove with a clear flowing river with pleasant smooth banks and nearby a village for alms resort. This will serve for the striving of a clansman intent on striving. And I sat down there thinking, this will serve for striving. Let's stop here for a moment. So here actually the Buddha is talking about the last part of his struggle. After 6 years, after he left the 2 meditation teachers, he practiced various types of unbeneficial ascetic practices for which he suffered a lot. Eating particular types of food, going naked, fasting, eating less and less, going to all kinds of extremes. All these are mentioned, I think, in the Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 12. So it was after 6 years, finally he came to this place near Uruvela. Then monks, being myself subject to birth, having understood the danger in what is subject to birth, seeking the seeking the unborn supreme security from bondage, Nibbana, I attained the unborn supreme security from bondage, Nibbana. Being myself subject to aging, having understood the danger in what is subject to aging, seeking the unaging supreme security from bondage, Nibbana, I attained the unaging supreme security from bondage, Nibbana. Being myself subject to sickness, having understood the danger in what is subject to sickness, seeking the unailing supreme security from bondage, Nibbana, I attained the unailing supreme security from bondage, Nibbana. Being myself subject to death, having understood the danger in what is subject to death, seeking the deathless supreme security from bondage, Nibbana, I attained the deathless supreme security from bondage, Nibbana. Being myself subject to sorrow, having understood the danger in what is subject to sorrow, seeking the sorrowless supreme security from bondage, Nibbana, I attained the sorrowless supreme security from bondage, Nibbana. Being myself subject to defilement, having understood the danger in what is subject to defilement, seeking the undefiled supreme security from bondage, Nibbana, I attained the undefiled supreme security from bondage, Nibbana. The knowledge and vision arose in me. My deliverance is unshakable. This is my last birth. Now there is no renewal of being. So here the Buddha says he became enlightened in this place. I considered this Dhamma that I have attained is profound, hard to see and hard to understand, peaceful and sublime, unattainable by mere reasoning, subtle to be experienced by the wise. But this generation delights in worldliness, takes delight in worldliness, rejoices in worldliness. It is hard for such a generation to see this truth, namely specific conditionality, dependent origination, and it is hard to see this truth, namely the stilling of all volitions, the relinquishing of all attachments, the destruction of craving, dispassion, cessation, Nibbana. If I were to teach the Dhamma, others would not understand me, and that would be wearying and troublesome for me. Thereupon there came to me spontaneously these stanzas never heard before, enough with teaching the Dhamma, that even I found hard to reach, for it will never be perceived by those who live in lust and hate. Those died in lust, wrapped in darkness, will never discern this abstruse Dhamma, which goes against the worldly stream, subtle, deep, and difficult to see. Considering thus, my mind inclined to inaction rather than to teaching the Dhamma. Let's stop here for a moment. So our Buddha, after he became enlightened, then he considered and he realized that most living beings, most humans, will not want to learn the Dhamma or practice the Dhamma. That's why actually most Buddhas are Pacceka Buddhas. You can see 99.99% of Buddhas are Pacceka Buddhas, because we find the Buddha said that after he became enlightened, he looked into the past and he probably stayed awake the whole night. And he looked through the past 91 world cycles and he saw only 6 Sammasambuddhas willing to teach the Dhamma to the world. Whereas in the Isigili Sutta, the Buddha says at one time there was this Isigili hill outside Rajagaha. At one time there were 500 Pacceka Buddhas staying on that hill. So you see, Pacceka Buddhas you can find a lot, but Sammasambuddhas are very, very few. So much for the Mahayana vow to become a Buddha. After they become a Buddha, they will not want to teach. Then monks, the Brahma Sahampati knew with his mind the thought in my mind, and he considered, the world will be lost, the world will perish, since the mind of the Tathagata, Arahant, Sammasambuddha, inclines to inaction rather than to teaching the Dhamma. Then just as quickly as a strong man might extend his flexed arm or flex his extended arm, the Brahma Sahampati vanished in the Brahma world and reappeared before me. He arranged his upper robe on one shoulder and extending his hands in reverential salutation towards me, said, Venerable Sir, let the Blessed One teach the Dhamma. Let the Sublime One teach the Dhamma. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who are wasting through not hearing the Dhamma. There will be those who will understand the Dhamma. The Brahma Sahampati spoke thus, and then he said further, in Magadha there have appeared till now impure teachings devised by those still stained. Open the doors to the deathless. Let them hear the Dhamma that the stainless one has found. Just as one who stands on a mountain peak can see below the people all around, so wise one, all-seeing sage, ascend the palace of the Dhamma. Let the sorrowless one survey this human breed, engulfed in sorrow, overcome by birth and old age. Arise, victorious hero, caravan leader, deathless one, and wonder in the world. Let the Blessed One teach the Dhamma. There will be those who will understand. Then I listened to the Brahma's pleading, and out of compassion for beings, I surveyed the world with the eye of a Buddha. Surveying the world with the eye of a Buddha, I saw beings with little dust in their eyes, and with much dust in their eyes, with keen faculties and with dull faculties, with good qualities and with bad qualities, easy to teach and hard to teach, and some who dwelt seeing fear in blame and in the world. Just as in a pond of blue or red or white lotuses, some lotuses that are born and grow in the water thrive immersed in the water without rising out of it, and some other lotuses that are born and grow in the water rest on the water's surface, and some other lotuses that are born and grow in the water rise out of the water and stand clear, unwetted by it. So too, surveying the world with the eye of a Buddha, I saw beings with little dust in their eyes, and with much dust in their eyes, with keen faculties and with dull faculties, with good qualities and with bad qualities, easy to teach and hard to teach, and some who dwelt seeing fear in blame and in the world. Then I replied to the Brahma Sahampati in stanzas, Open for them are the doors to the deathless. Let those with ears now show their faith. Thinking it would be troublesome, O Brahma, I did not speak the Dhamma, subtle and sublime. Then Brahma Sahampati thought, I have created the opportunity for the Blessed One to teach the Dhamma, and after paying homage to me, keeping me on the right, he thereupon departed at once. I'll stop here for a moment. This Brahma Sahampati, in some other sutta, I think the Samyutta Nikaya, it is stated that he was a monk in the previous life. So, after becoming a Brahma, so whenever somebody becomes enlightened, he knows that he should ask the enlightened one to teach the Dhamma. Also, the other thing you can infer from these few passages is that the difference between a Pacceka Buddha and a Sammasambuddha is only that one wants to teach and the other one does not want to teach. It's not like some other later books say. Some other later books say that the Pacceka Buddha doesn't know how to teach, cannot teach. That's not true. You see, our Buddha would have become a Pacceka Buddha, right? It's only because of Brahma Sahampati appealing to him that he decided to teach. So all Buddhas, because they have enlightened, they know the path so well. How can they not know how to teach? They all know how to teach. Only is whether they want or not. I considered thus: to whom should I first teach the Dhamma? Who will understand this Dhamma quickly? It then occurred to me, Alara Kalama is wise, intelligent and discerning. He has long had little dust in his eyes. Suppose I taught the Dhamma first to Alara Kalama. He will understand it quickly. Then deities approached me and said, Venerable Sir, Alara Kalama died 7 days ago. And the knowledge and vision arose in me. Alara Kalama died 7 days ago. I thought, Alara Kalama's loss is a great one. If he had heard this Dhamma, he would have understood it quickly. I considered thus, to whom should I first teach the Dhamma? Who will understand this Dhamma quickly? It then occurred to me, Uddaka Ramaputta is wise, intelligent and discerning. He has long had little dust in his eyes. Suppose I taught the Dhamma first to Uddaka Ramaputta, he will understand it quickly. Then deities approached me and said, Venerable Sir, Uddaka Ramaputta died last night. And the knowledge and vision arose in me. Uddaka Ramaputta died last night. I thought, Uddaka Ramaputta's loss is a great one. If he had heard this Dhamma, he would have understood it quickly. I'll stop here for a moment now. So here you see, after the Buddha was enlightened, he was looking for the most, the most suitable person to teach, and he decided on his two meditation teachers. Why? Because here, as the Buddha says, they have little dust in their eyes. How come they have little dust in their eyes? Because they have attained jhana. And because they have attained jhana, they have got rid of the 5 hindrances that obstruct wisdom. So, if you teach somebody who has jhana, who has got rid of the 5 hindrances, he will understand very quickly. So, even after these two persons also, the next few persons that the Buddha taught, they also had attained jhana, either in this lifetime or the previous lifetime. That's why, just upon hearing the Dhamma, many of them became arahants, just by hearing the Dhamma. The other thing I want to say here is, after the Buddha knew that Alara Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputta had passed away and reborn in heaven, why didn't he go to heaven to teach them? Because it's not possible. Why? Because in some other sutta, the Buddha said that the flesh body can only fly as far as the Brahma world, the first jhana, heaven. The other heavens are too far away. This flesh body cannot reach. This rocket has got a limit. Although his mind, he may know there are some other beings there, but he cannot contact them, too far away. So these are the two things. Remember, the most ideal person to understand the Dhamma is one who has got rid of the 5 hindrances. And the minimum you need to get rid of the 5 hindrances was threshold concentration, very close to the first jhana. It's mentioned in the Digha Nikaya. I considered thus, to whom should I first teach the Dhamma? Who will understand this Dhamma quickly? It then occurred to me, the monks of the group of 5 who attended upon me while I was engaged in my striving were very helpful. Suppose I taught the Dhamma first to them. Then I thought, where are the monks of the group of 5 now living? And with the divine eye which is purified and surpasses the human, I saw that they were living at Benares in the deer park at Isipatana. Stop here for a moment. So after that the Buddha decided to teach the 5 monks who were his disciples when he was striving to become enlightened. So since the Buddha had already attained jhanas, I'm sure he would have taught the group of 5 monks. That's why he went to teach them, because they have also got rid of the 5 hindrances.